Noon. Hey, we'll figure it out later. I ain't worried about it. How's everybody doing this afternoon? I hope did Most High bless, really truly bless you over and abundantly with love, kindness, and joy. I hope the Most High really truly have blessed you over and abundantly with peace, understanding, and wisdom of His word. I hope the Most High really truly have blessed you over and abundantly with love, kindness, and peace, and wisdom and understanding. Yes, I hope the Most High really truly have blessed you over and abundantly this week with financial blessings. Yes. My week has been a pretty good week this week. Um, learning, learning what I've learned this week, is I tell people all the time, right? Education costs. Education costs, no matter if you got to pay for it from the institution, if you got to pay for it from life experiences, education cost, right? And that's what I had to realize. Okay, thank you. What I had to realize this week is that, you have to understand in order to be successful. You got to understand life. You got to understand people in order to be successful, right? And if you're not able to understand people in life, you're not going to be that successful because you're not going to know how to maneuver in the process. You're not going to know how to maneuver in the manure, right? So that's what I learned this week is that learning people natural and nature sense can help you to be able to maneuver through the maneuver. All right. So let us go ahead and get started this morning on Exodus chapter 20, verses 1 through 17. And it reads that Adonai spake out of these words, saying, I am Yahuwah the Adonai, which I brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage, and thou shalt have no other Adonais before me. And thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in the heavens above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. And thou shalt not bow down thyself to them nor serve them. For I, Yahuwah the Adonai, am a jealous Adonai, visiting the iniquities of the fathers upon the children until the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of Yahuwah the Adonai in vain. For Yahuwah will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of Yahuwah thy Adonai. In it thou shalt not do any works, thou nor thy sons, nor thy daughter, nor manservants, nor thy maidservants, nor thy cattle, nor thy strangers that is within thy gates. For in 6 days Yahuwah made the heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore, if Yahuwah blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days be long upon the land which your Adonai giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbors, and thou shalt not cover thy neighbor's house, and thou shalt not cover thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Okay? Let us pray this morning. O creators of the heavens and earth, of our radiance and vibrations, soften the grounds of our beings, and carve out a space with us where your presence can abide, and fill us with your creativity, so that we may be empowered to bear fruits in accordance with our desire within your purpose for our life. Bestow us with the wisdom of produce and share what each being needs to grow and flourish. Untie the tangled thread of destiny that binds us as we release others from the entanglement of past mistakes. Do not let us be seduced by that which distract us from our true purpose, but illuminate the opportunities of present moments, for you are the ground and the fruitful vision, the creator, the power, and fulfillment as all is gathered and made whole once again. So let it be. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are on YouTube. Tell me where you're located. Tell me where you're located at so I know how to address you this morning. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. I hope everything is going well with you all this morning, this afternoon, wherever you are in this world, in the YouTube world. If you could turn to Mark chapter 7, Mark chapter 7, right? Mark chapter 7, verses 14 through 26, 23. Mark chapter 7, verse 14 through 23. I'm going to read you this morning. It reads, and he said, in the key verse this morning, this afternoon, the key verse is, and he said, that which cometh out of the man, that defiles the man. And he said, that which cometh out of the man, defiles the man. Okay? If I may give a title of the teachings today, the title of the teachings today is, it is in his nature to be this way. It is in his nature to be this way. Okay? So let me give you two words. Two words today. It's not actually two words, but it's two things I want you to talk about. Human nature. Human nature is the fundamental characteristics to think, feel, and act with a complex emotions like such as unselfishness or selfishness, but it's also heavily influenced by genetics and your culture. Your nature point of view, your human nature, which is to feel, think, and act, is also influenced by your DNA, your genetics, and your culture, right? But then I said the natural of man. The natural of man is dominated by the carnal appetite. The physical man is also dominated by the natural appetite, selfish desires, and physical senses as opposed to spiritual. So your natural man sometimes can override your nature, and it will override your nature. And so or your natural man is influenced or enhanced by your nature, or your nature is influenced by your natural desires. It would enhance everything that you think you may want in life, right? And that's something I think we got to think about, even though we've been given all these abilities, which is the natural sense, but the nature or the nature of man, but the natural, the appetite of who do you wanting to please in this world will enhance your nature, and that will be called the natural man. Like, excuse me, when we're looking at the world today, right? And I wear certain things for certain reasons because I have a certain message I'm trying to give out, right? So when I wear certain things for certain reasons, it is for a particular reason. It's not just that I'm wearing it just to wear it, I'm wearing it for a particular reason, right? But let me tell you the reason why Mark, the book of Mark, Gospel of Mark was written. It said this gospel gives no indication of its author's name. However, it has a traditionally been attributed to John Mark, the cousin of Barnabas. John was his John was his Jewish name, while Marcus or Mark was his Roman name. He apparently grew up in Jerusalem and was a young lad during the time of Jesus' public ministry. He may even have been the young man spoken in Mark 14. As a young man, he accompanied Paul and Barnabas for parts of their first missionary journey. Later in life, he became the associate of Paul, an assistant with Paul, associate with Paul. Okay? The key evidence about the identity of the author is a statement by the early second century historian. He quoted a Christian bishop who wrote, saying Mark that was Peter's interpreter, who accurately recorded Peter's accounts of Christ's words and deeds. John Mark association with Peter must have afforded him the opportunities to hear about the words and deeds of our Lord as Peter preached in Rome. Okay, the target audience was an unmistakably Gentile and specifically Roman. So that means that um he was specifically talking to a certain group of people about certain things, right? And he was talking to them because they was considered to be Gentiles. Either it's Gentile by natural or Gentiles by behavior. Gentiles by nature goes to Genesis chapter 10, but Gentile by nature, by nature is how you behave, because you got two types of Gentiles. Gentiles that are from the lineage of Japhet, but also Gentiles on how you behave and how you look and how you be. Right? Okay. So the purpose of this gospel can be deducted from its opening statement. It has conveyed the message of the gospel or good news about Yeshua the HaMashiach or Jesus the Christ. Okay, it says to drive this point home, Mark uses Greek words for gospels 3 times and this is the only four gospel that stresses his words right, less the good news about Christ. So why is Mark different? Okay, but let us go ahead and get started and talk about chapter 7, right? Mark chapter 7, and why I'm teaching on this today is because we're talking about the nature of man. What's up, my brother Greg Rivers? Shalom, shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom, shalom. So, Mark chapter 7, right? It's talking about traditions and commandments, right? It's talking about how people follow traditions more than they follow the commandments of following Christ. And a lot of people don't think that they have to follow Christ because they don't feel like they're up under the law anymore. You are up under the law if you're going to say you're following Jesus the Christ or Yeshua the HaMashiach. There's no way around it. As a Christian or a person or a Hebrew Israelite, he said, I did not come to demolish the law, but to fulfill the law. That means he came to do his part in the law. So that means that he got to do what the law tells him to do. But anyway, we're talking about Mark chapter 7, and because what was actually going on in this chapter was that the Pharisees and the Sadducees was talking to Yeshua, Jesus the Christ, about what his what his disciples was doing, and they was picking an ear of corn, and they did not wash their hands before they ate the corn. And they was talking about they was defiling, they was being this and they was being that, right? But it says this in Mark chapter 7, verse 3. It says, for the Pharisees and other Jews, except they wash their hands off, eat not holding the traditions of the elders. See, the Pharisees and the Sadducees were just following traditions of man and not really truly following the customs and the commandments of the Most High. So that's why it was such a big controversy in this scene, is because most of the times, like some people now, right? I guess tomorrow is Easter for Christian church or for Christian denomination or for the world, whoever practice it, right? That is the traditions of man because Easter came from Estar, means a fertility god, means that they're worshiping man and not worshiping the Passover, not worshiping the traditions of the commandments of the Most High. So when you are talking about traditions of man, those who's going to church tomorrow and practicing Easter is practicing the traditions of man and not the Messiah or Christ himself. Because he never practiced no Easter. He always he practiced the Passover because even in the okay, let me do something. Um okay. John chapter 2, right? Verse 13. It says this right here. And the Jews' Passover was at hand, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem and found in the temple those that sold oxen and sheep and doves and the chargers of money sitting. And when he had made a scourge in a small court, he drove them out of the temple, the sheep and the oxen, and poured out the changers' monies and overthrew the table. And he said unto them that sold doves, take these things hence, make not my father's house an house of merchandise. So Jesus never practiced the Easter. Jesus always, Yahshua HaMashiach, practiced Passover. So when you see people today or tomorrow buying their Easter suits, and I'm not trying to be facetious or funny when I say these things, this is the natural truth. So when you see tomorrow people are practicing Easter and practicing all these pagan holidays, they are practicing traditions of man. And they are not practicing or following the commandments of the Most High. And that is something that we truly got to accept, understand, and deal with. Because that's the truth. Because Estar means an egg represents fertility. That's what the egg represents. It doesn't represent Christ or the resurrection of him being hung on a tree. It means that he that means that Easter is practicing the Greek traditions. It is the Greek traditions, not the Romans tradition. It is the Greek traditions. That is what it is. So let us understand that, okay? But anyway, that's what the Mark chapter 7 was talking about was, are you following man's traditions or are you following the Most High's traditions? And if you're going to follow Most High's traditions, okay, he's telling us, and because Christ also wanted us to this, I want us to understand something this right here too. Christ or the Messiah also he wanted to change the mindset of people. He wanted to change the mindset of people. He didn't want to change anything yet first but the mindset. And if he can get to your mind, he can get to your body, your spiritual, and your behavior. But if you're thinking from the physical or the carnal or the natural mind, you're gonna always fail. You're gonna always lose the game because the natural state of man always comes from the physical desires of wants and needs. That's why he say, if you shall ask, knock, and the door shall be open. If you ask in my Father's name, it shall be given unto you. But it's in the manner in which you operate, how you live your life. But you first got to be mentally released from bondage of the Egyptians' way of thinking. You got to be mentally released from the culture and the environment because your environment controls your nature. It controls how you actually think. It controls how you actually live. It controls how you actually be as a person. Your environment, your genetics, your DNA code, it says so much about you. That's why when when people talk about Ruth, right, and Naomi, and they always talk about Ruth was a Moabite, right? And Ruth and Ruth was a Moabite, and she came down from this lineage here. But not realizing that the Moabites came from Lot, which came from Abraham. Because because Abraham and Lot was descendants. They was cousins, they was relatives. Okay, so now if the Moabites came from Lot, that means that the Moabites still had a holy lineage. Even though Lot and his daughter had incest, but the reason why Lot and his daughters, the reason why Lot daughters had has intercourse with their fathers so that they can keep the lineage going. That is the reason why they did it. So the lineage was still a pure lineage, even though it's incest, because it still came from one specific group of people. So when you're talking about Ruth was a Moabite, yes, but Ruth came from Lot, which is the same bloodline as Abraham. That's something that we got to think about when we always talk about Ruth. Oh, Jesus came from Lot. I mean, Ruth. Yeah, but Ruth came from Lot. And like they all came from the same father. So we got to think about that. But anyway, we're talking about traditions of man and why Christ was so um angry with the Pharisees and the Sadducees, because he just tell them you always following the rules and the thumbs of man and not following the Most High's laws. And that's something you got to think about. Are you going to follow the Most High? You're going to follow the man traditions of man. Because it was just, that's what he said in verse 3. He said, for the Pharisees and all the Jews except wash their hands often, eat not holding the traditions of the elders. When they come from the market, except they wash, they eat not. And many other things there be, which they have received to hold, as the washing of cups, pots, and brass of vessels, and of tables. And Jesus went on, and the Messiah went on to say, hey, you just practicing this stuff, but Isaiah already done told me these things are gonna happen because you're so ignorant. You want to follow the traditions of man and not do the will of the Father. Okay. But then it goes on and talk about this is what I want to get to. It's talking about what really actually defiles the man. What actually make you wicked or what actually makes you righteous. Right? Because Kogi, can you go get me 2 glasses and bring me some water and a third one? Because I'm finna show you something. I'm finna show you something because that's what the spirit was on me about, right? The spirit was on me about something. What actually defiles us? What actually defiles us? Let's go to First Corinthians. Let me see if this is 3:17. What actually defiles us? Because I'm jumping ahead, but I'm talking about the natural, the nature and the natural, right? Because I don't want us to misunderstand our reality, our what's going on in the world today, because I want us to understand something here. Everything is happening the way it's supposed to happen. Things are being done the way they're supposed to be done. It's just up to us to recognize what we're actually dealing with. And if we don't recognize what we're dealing with, we can misunderstand our reality. We can understand everything what's going on in the world because we don't we don't understand the nature of man. It's because we don't understand the nature of people. That's why we have a disillusion about them. You understand what I'm saying? Because society tell us one thing, but their actually nature or natural is something their nature is something totally different. Okay, let me go to Genesis for a second. Okay. The nature of a woman is to have security and to have physical, financial security. She need the physical security and she need the financial security. That's her natural state. That's her natural state, right? Let me get that one. That's her natural state because she need the physical security and she need the financial securities, right? And once you understand that women needs those securities, they will be willing to do whatever they got to do to get it because that's their nature. That's what they're made of. That's who they supposed to be. That's what their physical desires is in the world is to have a physical and financial security. That's what the story of Eve is showing us. That's the nature of woman is to have the physical and the physical and the financial desires, right? Okay, so this say hypothetically, this is just a glass by nature. But the natural abilities of this glass is to hold water. The natural abilities of the glass is is to hold water, right? So what I just did with with the nature of the glass is to be able to is it is made to do something. Just like human beings are made to think, feel, and have emotions off of our abilities that what we have. So the nature of this glass is to be able to hold water because that's what it was created for, right? So now, depending on what we pour in the glass, is what the glass will be. Because the simple fact is, the description of the glass is what will be what will be described of the glass. This would just be a glass, an empty glass. But now this is a glass of water. Why? Because it has water inside of it. Understand that. The glass is just a glass without having something that it obtains. If that makes any sense. So now, whatever you decide to pour into this glass, that is the description of the glass. Okay? I hope y'all are hearing this, right? Because the natural is just what it is able to do, hold. The nature is what it's able to hold, but the natural is the actions of the nature. This is a glass. A glass is not useful if it's not holding water. It's just a regular glass that sits on the counter. It is useless until it's being put to doing its purpose, right? So now this is a glass, a useless glass, but now it is a glass of tea. It is only described by what it is able to hold, be, or do. If you are not operating in your nature or your natural sense, you are not able to be useful in this society. If that makes any sense. Because this is just a glass. Nothing is inside of it. This is a glass of water. Now they understand what the nature of that glass is able to do. It is able to hold water and to be useful to society. You're not able to be useful to society until you operate in your nature, Okay? This is a glass of tea. You're not useful until you're being utilized in the purpose in which you are designed or you're created to be. If you're not being useful in your nature, you are useless, right? Okay, so now when we understand this and how can I go back? Now let's go back to Mark chapter 3, chapter 7, because I want us to understand something. We're talking about defilement, we're talking about the nature, and we're talking about the natural. The nature is you are created with some abilities. You are created with some abilities. Understand that you are this glass and you're created with some abilities. Whether you choose to use those abilities is based on you, and how you choose to use your abilities is based on you. And where that comes from is from your environment and your DNA. Majority of your behaviors, your thought processes, and everything about you, your essence comes from your environment that you live in. So that helps create either a toxic relationship or a pure relationship. A toxic person or a pure person, because whatever you pour into that temple, that is what it will become. Whatever you allow to come into your body, your temple, is what you will become, whether you become clear, pure, and holy, or whether you become the traditions of man. It is all based on what you truly allow your nature or your natural to produce. And that's what Jesus was talking about. He said, you are just following the traditions of toxicity, man, and not the pureness of the Creator. See, this is us. We're empty vessels. Nothing is in us. We only become who we become when we start to put things in us. We only become who we supposed to be when we start to put this in us, whether it be clean, whether it be tea or toxicity, or whether it be water, holiness. And see, when you're looking at it, tea, just saying, I'm just using tea as a hypothetical, tea could be representing the uncleanliness of mankind because it's dirty. It looks dirty. It looks nasty. It's got all this stuff on the inside of it. And when if people wouldn't know what it is, you just ask them to drink it. The first thing they ask you is, "Oh, that looks nasty," because of the way it looks. The way it looks, how it is behaving, how it is. But if you gave a person this, the holiness of it, people would be like, "Man, yeah, I get a glass of water. I'd be glad to have some of that water." Because they can see it more clearly now. The rain is gone. So now that's what Jesus was talking about, the Messiah was talking about. He was just talking about your nature is being controlled by mankind. But we don't have the ideas and the consciousness to be able to realize it because we are still practicing pagan behaviors. And the Pharisees and the scribes was dealing with stuff that really didn't even matter. Jesus was talking more about how you think and how you live and how you treat people, and they was more concerned about how you dress, how you look, how you act. I mean, how you your facade of the world. That's what Jesus was saying. You more concerned about the wrong thing. You weren't more concerned about what man was thinking about you than what the Creator was thinking about you. See, a lot of people like to pour toxicity into their lives, or they like to read and be around a lot of toxicity and wonder why they look and live like this. A lot of people don't like the holiness of the world because it takes a little effort, because they don't want to read and act and be the way the holiness it calls you to be, because they're so stuck in man's traditions. So now that's what Jesus was mainly talking about. That's mainly what he was talking about. So now I want to talk to you a little bit about what's going on in the world today. Why are we surprised? Why are we so surprised that we see things going on in the world the way it is? Why are we so surprised that we see the United States over in Iran? Why are we so surprised? We all have natural abilities. We all have natural instincts. We all have the abilities to think, to act, to have emotions. The Creator have given us abilities that we could never imagine that we could have. Matter of fact, let's go to Genesis chapter 27, verse 38. Because we got to understand Esau's abilities. Esau was a cunning hunter. That was his nature, to be a hunter. Understand that. That means that he understand how to get his prey, how to hunt for his prey. Right? But it was considered to be a blessing for Esau to be a cunning hunter, because let's go to verse 37. Because it says, and Isaac answered and said unto Esau, behold, I have made him thy Lord, and all his brothers have I given to him for servant. And with corn and wine have I sustained him. And what shall I do now unto thee, my son? Listen to what Esau said. The abilities that Esau have is a blessing. It is a physical blessing, and I want you to understand this. And it says that Esau said unto his father, how hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. Listen to what Isaac did. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fat of the earth and the dew of the heavens above from above. Listen to verse 40. And by thy sword shall thou live, and shalt serve thy brothers. And it shall come to pass when thou shalt serve, thou shalt have dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. Mm-hmm. See, the abilities, everybody had the abilities. But Esau's natural abilities was to be a cunning hunter. But how he used his natural abilities would be for wickedness. And see, we wonder, how did the Americas of Turtle Island get conquered? How did it get conquered? It was conquered through violence. How did South America get conquered? It was conquered through violence. How did the continent of Africa get conquered or colonized? It was conquered through or colonized through violence. And see, sometimes we overlook the nature of people because the simple fact is of what we've been told on how to think. But you cannot deviate, or you cannot run from the nature of people. How they choose to water their nature depends on them. But you cannot choose, you cannot deny people's nature. Because their nature can be toxicity or it can be holiness. But whatever they choose, that's what they choose. But you got to realize that everybody have those abilities. It's just for us to really recognize the abilities in the person, in their nature. So that we won't be so discombobulated because of the simple fact of what we seeing and what's going on in the earth. Because that is the natural, that is the hardest pill to swallow, is you dealing with your reality from what you told how it should be. And that's something we got to accept as a people and a person, is that what is my nature? What is my nature? And am I actually watering it for toxicity or holiness? That's what we got to think about, because toxicity comes from man. Holiness comes from the Most High. And that's something that we got to truly understand and deal with. Because the Messiah was dealing with them people on a level that they never could imagine, because their minds could not even evolve to that state. Because they were so on an earthly and physical plane, they could not even understand what he was talking about majority of the time. But they was wondering why he was doing all the things he was doing and saying all the things that he was saying, because he was speaking over their head. So now when we're starting to look at our life and look at the reality that we're living in, we just got to understand the nature of people and where they're at and what they've been doing for a long period of time. And we got to deal with them according to who their nature is. We can't deal with them on how we want them to be or how we see them. We got to deal with them on their nature and their natural. That's what we got to do. That's what I want you to understand about the sphere of the realm that we're in today. stop thinking one thing when in actuality, this is your reality. You're dealing with people whose nature is toxic. So now let us get started on Mark chapter 7, verse 14. And I do apologize for keeping you long. I ain't going to hold you too much longer. Okay, so now Mark chapter 7, verse 14.
That was a good scenario.
And when he had called the people unto him, he said unto them, hearken unto me, every one of you, and understand. Listen to who's talking. Listen to what he's saying. Listen, because you cannot become holy if you're listening to the world. Because let me say something to you. John chapter 4, verse 4. Listen to this. And I want you to understand something. He said, ye adulterers and adulteresses, know ye not that the friendship of the world is war with an eye? Whosoever therefore will be a friend of the world is the enemy of Ananias. So that's why Christ was talking to the Pharisees so much in the way that he was, because he knew that they was doing the traditions of man and they was doing the things of the world. So he was basically telling you, you're a big old hypocrite. You are misleading the people. You are an enemy to Ananias right now. So I don't have nothing good to say to you about nothing that you got going on. Because it says there again, it says in verse 14, listen to what Christ is saying. Christ is saying, hearken unto me, every one of you, and understand. Because it says, in all thy getting, get what? Understanding. He says, there is nothing from without a man that entering into him can defile him, but the things which come out of him, those are they that defile the man. And see, on the level that he was talking on and the level that they was on, they was thinking he was talking about food. He wasn't thinking about no food because that way beyond. That's the law. They should know not to eat stuff. He was talking something deeper and greater than that. But their mindset was so elementary, they couldn't even comprehend his logic, his thought process, his viewpoint. Because he's trying to come see. See, Christ was a black theologian, and he was coming of liberation. He was coming to liberate the black people's minds from oppression. But because they couldn't understand that they was being oppressed, he couldn't really free them mentally because they had been in captivity for so long. He couldn't free them mentally because they was oppressed and their minds are so jacked up. But he thought they was just he thought he was talking about food. But now he was talking about your way of thinking, fool. He wasn't talking about what you eating. You already know your customs on what you shouldn't eat. He's talking about something deeper and greater than that. When it says, but the things which come out of him, those are that which defiles him. No, he know you got to go to the bathroom. He know you gonna have to boo boo. He know you gonna have to do those things, so those things gotta come out you. That's not defiling you. He talking about what comes into your capital, what comes in between these two ears of yours. Mm-hmm. That's what he's talking about. He's talking about your mindset. He's talking about how you use your nature. That's what he's talking about. How you use the abilities that he has given you. Because let us go to Proverbs chapter 4. My computer messing up, but I'm finna get my Bible out. Proverbs chapter 4. Chapter 4, verse 23. Because it reads like this right here. And the word heart means mind. It don't mean this. It means the mind. Okay. It says, for thy mind with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Put away from thee a forward mouth and perverse lips. Put far from thee. Let thy eyes look right on, and let thy eyelids look straight before thee. Because what it was talking about is your mind. You got to get your mind right. That's what you got to do. Get your mind right. In order for us to be able to understand anything about our nature and about our natural, we got to get our mind right. We got to think right. We got to think properly. We got to get our thoughts in the appropriate manner. Because you could be expecting somebody to be one way, but that's not their nature to be the way you're thinking they should be. And when it's not that way, you're disappointed and upset. But why? They're just revealing to you on how they're going to use their nature, whether it's in a cunning way or whether it's in a righteous way. Everybody has the abilities to do it. It's just how they chose to do it. Esau was a cunning hunter. Was he doing it for a positive or a negative thing? Let us go to Matthew chapter 12. Matthew chapter 12, verse 24. Matthew chapter 12. I'm trying to get to it. Matthew chapter 12, verse 24. And it reads, but when the Pharisees heard it, they said, this fellow doeth not cast out devils, but Beelzebub, the prince of the devil. That ain't the one I'm talking about. Go to verse 34. I'm sorry, Matthew 12 and 34. It says, O generation of vipers, how can ye, being evil, speak good? He said, it's not in your nature to speak good. You're naturally evil. How can you speak good when you're naturally evil? For out of the abundance of the mind, the mouth speaketh. See, he's telling us it is in certain people nature to be ways. So when you think that they're doing something totally different than who they are, you're confusing yourself with it. But they just give an excuse on why they do what they do. Let's go to James 1 and 14 and 15. Here it is. It says, but every man is tempted when he is drawn away from his own lust and enticed. Listen to that. That's the nature of man. But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. Then when lust has conceived, it brings forth sin. And sin, when it is finished, bring forth death. See, when you allow your nature to continue to be tempted by the physical, which is lust of the world, you're sending yourself to death, not realizing. And people understand that. People understand that. They know what they're doing. And they're using the things, they're using their skills and their abilities for wickedness. And people do this all the time. They continue to drink from the world, to drink from the lust of the physical body because they like it. It tastes good. It makes them feel good, like, not realizing that it's bringing death on the body. The more you drink, continue to drink contamination, the more you continue to push yourself to death, not even realizing that you're dying from your own physical desire. Let us go back to Mark chapter 7. Verse 16. Then we go back to verse 15. We're going to go back to 16. It says, there is nothing from without a man that entering into him can defile him to make him bad. Nothing enter into a man that can make him bad. But the things which come out of him, those are that defiles the man. He's saying you can even have evil thoughts. This computer. Okay, I get back to that one. Okay. Then it says in verse 16, if any man has an ear to hear, let him hear. When he was entered into the house from the people, his disciples asked him concerning the parable. Concerning the parable. And he said unto them, are ye so without understanding also? See, he was talking to his disciples, right? He said, he's talking to his disciples, he said unto them, are ye so without understanding also? Do you not perceive that whatsoever thing from without enters into the man, it cannot defile him? Because it entered not into his mind, but into the belly, and goeth out into the draught, and purging all meat. See, the most see the Yeshua, Christ was so much on a totally different level. He said, man, why are you so concerned about the physical realm, the simple stuff? I'm talking to you on a totally different level. Because this is what it says in Ephesians 6, 4 and 26. It says, 4 and 26 is this says this right here. It says Ephesians 4 and 26. Okay, I'm going to go to verse 25. It says, wherefore putting away lying, speaking every man truth with his neighbor, for we are members of one another. Be ye angry and sin not. Let the sun go down upon your wrath. See, he didn't tell you you couldn't be mad, you couldn't be upset, you couldn't think certain things, but he's just telling you don't act on it. Ye be angry and sin not. Let not the sun go down upon your wrath, neither give place to the devil. Let him that steals steal no more, but rather let him labor, working with his hands the things which is good, that he may have to give to him that need. See, he's not telling you you can't be angry. You can't have evil thoughts sometimes. You can't want to go knock somebody's head off. But that doesn't mean you got to act on it. That's different. Knowing you have the abilities and doing what you have the abilities to do. See, everybody got the abilities to do something. But whether they choose to use them for good or bad, that's something different. So Mark chapter 14, chapter 7, verse 16. Chapter 7, verse 16. It says, the enemy man has an ear, let him hear. And when he was entered into the house from the people, his disciples asked him concerning the parable. See, he was speaking over their head because they couldn't understand. And he said unto them, are ye so without understanding also? Do you not perceive that whatsoever thing from without enters into the man, it cannot defile him? Because it entered into not the mind, but into the belly and goes out into the drought, purging all meat. And he said, that which cometh out of the man, that defiles the man. What you mean by that? You sound contradictory. He's talking about your actions, your behavior. Your behavior defiles you because of how you think. See, you acting actually out on your thoughts when you start to do things you know you shouldn't do. That's the thing. When you start acting out on your thoughts, he say, ye be angry, but sin not. Ye be angry, but sin not. See, I have the abilities to do whatever I want to do as long as I don't act upon them. That's the difference. I have the abilities to cheat, steal, take, do whatever, but as long as I don't act upon them. Let's go to Micah 2:1. It says, now ye priests, this commandment is for you. If you will not hear, and if you will not lay it to your mind, to give glory unto my name, saith you who of hosts, I will even send a curse upon you, and I will curse your blessings. Yea, I will have cursed them already, because ye did not lay it to your heart. See, our actions means a whole lot. Our actions means a whole lot. But our thoughts control our behavior. And I want us to understand that. Our thoughts control our behavior. Let us go to James 4:1. It says, from which cometh wars and fighting among you? Come they not hence, even of your lust that war is in your members? See, war comes from lust. War comes from own physical desires. That's why we're over there in the Far East right now because of the lust of the United States. We're not over there because they did something done wrong to us. We're not over there because of they bombed us or whatever. We're over there because our desires, our thought process, our mindset as the United States. That's why it says, so as a man thinketh, so is he. Go to Proverbs 4:16. He said, for they sleep not, except they have done mischief. See, people like this, for they sleep not, except they have done mischief, and their sleep is taken away, unless they cause some to fall. And see at work this week, right? I'm at a new location trying to do some different stuff, right? And I work with Esau. And he did things intentionally to set me up for failure. Because of the fact is he saw me as a threat more so than a friendly. And see, when people see you as a threat because of your nature, they're gonna respond from the wickedness of their nature. And that's something they're going to use their nature for wickedness to do whatever they can against you. But it just made me be more aware of the people that I'm around. Because you still got to understand how they use their nature. This is them. This is everybody. This is us. We have the abilities to hold something. But how we use it, it's based on us. So I learned from Esau that no, I can't trust you. I got to go behind you. I got to make sure I dot my I's and cross my T's because I know you're going to use your nature against me to harm me. And that's what we're seeing going on in the world today. But we got to be cognitive enough to understand that. It says, for they eat the bread of the wickedness and drink the wine of violence. Some people are just innate to be the way they are. And that's something that we just got to understand, and we got to stop thinking that people going to change because some got to go to hell. Some was just created for hell. That's something that we as a people got to understand. Some people were just created for hell. Let's go back to Mark chapter 7, verse 21. Okay, let me go back. Because your actions is what defines you. Your actions is what defines you. That's why we're having so many problems in this world today. And how they see the United States of America. Because they're looking at not what you say, but what you do. They're looking at what you say. They're looking at what you do and not what you say. Because the simple fact, I used to tell my daughter all the time, let your eyes be your ears. Let your eyes be your ears. Because just that. And he said, that which comes out of the mouth, out of the man, that defiles a man. Now he finna explain to them what he mean by that. Because they saw on an elementary level, he got to break it down to more and more. It says from within, out of the mind of man, perceiveth evil thoughts, adulterers, fornications, murderers, death, covetousness, wickedness, deceit, lavishness, an evil eye, blaspheme, pride, and foolishness. He said, well, that's what defiles a man evil heart, the evil thought actions of a man. You can say I think one thing, but how you behave is something totally different.
Mm.
Revelation chapter 20, verse 12. It says, I saw the dead, great and small, stand before God, Ananias. The books were open, and another book was open, which is the book of life. And the dead was judged out of those things which was written in the books, according to their works. See, nobody's telling people you're going to be judged according to what you do, not what you think, but what you do. And the sea gave up the dead which was in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which was in them, and they would judge every man according to their works. See, we can say we're a Christian nation all the time. Well, what do you mean by Christian nation? What do you mean? When you have killed more of your citizens, you incarcerated more of your citizens than anybody. You are giving sanctions to your own nations of people. But you're a Christian nation. You sent the F-15 or F-20 or whatever and killed 160 kids, children, adolescents. All because of what? What do them kids have to do with going on in the world? It's your nature to be a cunning hunter. It's your nature to bring destruction on the earth. Go back to Mark chapter 7.
Oh,
Last one. So all these evil things come from within and defiles a man. Greg said John 8 and 44. Ye of your father the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abided not in the truth, because there was no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. Because I tell you the truth, you believe me not. Which of you convince me of sin? And if I say the truth, why do you not believe me? And see, Esau is the father of lies. If you read the history of the United States, you think it's unimaginable.
Mm.
He said, "Ye are your father, the devil," Esau, "and the lust of your father you will do. The desires of your father you will do." And he was a murderer from the beginning, and abided not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. Ain't nobody can convince me that we should go over there and bomb 160 kids because of whatever it is. Them kids didn't have nothing to do with it. They was in school playing, trying to get an education. But you can tell them one thing, because there's no truth in you. And when he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own desires, his own will, his own purpose, his own everything, his own benefit. For he is a liar and the father of it. Last verse again. All these evil things come from within the mind and defiles the man, make the man evil. 1 Corinthians 3:17. No, go to verse 16 first. It says, "Know ye not that ye are the temple of Ananias, and that the spirit of Ananias dwells in you?" The spirit of Ananias dwells in you. And if any man defiles the temple of Ananias, him shall Ananias destroy. For the temple of Ananias is holy, which ye are. See, we're like this right here, right now. We're this. That's why Joshua say, "Choose this day whom you will serve." You can be this or you can be that. Because you got the natural abilities to be whatever you want to be. You just got to choose this or this. Because he's telling us in 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 17, if any man defiles the temple of Ananias, which is this, him shall Ananias destroy. For the temple of Ananias is holy, which temple ye are. It's telling you, you are the temple. But if you destroy your temple with your nature, he gonna destroy you. Let's go to Titus 1:5. It says, "For this cause left I thee in Crete, that thou should send in order the things that are wanting, and ordain elders in every city, as I had appointed thee. If any man be blameless, the husband of one wife, having faithful children, not accused of any riot or unruly." No, 15. Let's go down to Titus 1:15. That's what it says. Titus 1 and 15. It says, unto the pure all things are pure, but unto them that are defiled and unbelieving is nothing pure. But even their minds and conscience is defiled. Whose mind and consciousness is defiled? The unbelieving. The person who don't believe, their minds and their conscience is defiled means wicked. Ain't nothing right about them. Let's go to Hebrews 10 and 22. And having an high priest over the house of Ananiah, let us draw near with a pure mind and full assurance of faith, having our minds sprinkled from an evil conscience and our bodies washed with pure water. Let us hold fast the profession of our faith without wavering, for he is faithful that promise. Let us consider one another to provoke unto love and to good works.
Mm.
See, when we understand that we're an empty vessel, we're empty glass. We're empty, right? And we're here for a purpose, just like this was created for a purpose. This was created to hold water or liquids or fluids. It was designed to do one thing or something. We was designed, and its nature, that's its nature, is to hold something, fluids. That's the nature of this glass. We as humans have a nature that we have. Whether we use our nature for righteousness or wickedness is based on our choice. How we choose to live, how we choose to be, how life is. Whether we want to study the word or whether we not want to study the word. Whatever we decide to pour into our glass, it will make us who we are. For Esau, we can't be surprised at Esau. We can't be surprised at what we see going on in the world.
That's nature.
That's just his nature.
Mm.
That's not a hard reality for those who believe, but it's a hard reality for those who don't believe. So that concludes the teaching for today. You know, the thing is, it is his nature to be this way. What is your nature? How are you supposed to be? Because we got the human nature is the fundamental characteristics to think, feel, and act with complex emotions, meanings unselfishness and selfishness. But what really influences our nature is our genetics and our culture. And so you got to understand Esau's genetics and his culture.
Mm.
But also you got to look at the natural state of man. It is a person dominated by carnal appetite. Esau's carnal natural, is dominated by carnal appetite, selfish desires, and the physical sense as opposed to the spiritual. Esau don't have no spiritual desire, don't have no spiritual in him. So when we look at him and we see how he thinks, it'll show us how he act. And then when it shows us how he act, we'll see that he's a glass full of toxicity or wickedness. So that concludes the teaching for today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for everything that you have done. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But let me pray, Father, as we come to you today, we thank you, we bless you, we praise you, Father, we give you all the honor and the glory. Father, we just thank you for who you are and what you've been doing and where you taking us. We thanking you for your word not going out and coming back void. Thank you, Father, for everything that you have done and what you continue to do. Father, we just ask that you continue to take the fish scales off our eyes so we can see the way you want us to see. We can hear, unplug our ears so we can hear the way you want us to hear. And Father, we ask that you let us uncover our heads so we can understand the way you want us to understand. And unplug our mouth so we can speak the way you want us to speak, Father. We know that your will shall be done on earth as it is in heaven. Father, we just ask that your will go out and not come back void. Heal who you want to heal, save who you want to save, and protect who you want to protect, Father. In your higher name we pray. So let it be. Hold on for a second. Just 1 second. You can't go. Thank you, Brother Greg. Thank you, Brother Greg. 40 days and 40 nights he had to overcome me. You ever try to speak it? Nobody believe you. We had a mission from the Father, gonna die for his people. Hopefully, I see the 53, don't let go over your head. He knew that he would get betrayed, but he was still breaking gravy. I am the I am the way I will forget what he said. He prayed in his body. Resurrected him daily. Oh, yeah. Want to play us to keep my shalom. Everyone is getting one is gone. Can't wait until he bring us shalom. Keep them commandments cause he right on his way. Waking my people up, I want my people so to get saved. Ain't no coincidence, we waking up all over the place. He put that crown up on my head. I wanna know what this says for Messiah, Messiah, Messiah. It's for Messiah, Messiah, Messiah. It's for Messiah, Messiah, Messiah. This one for Messiah, 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 Messiah. All praise to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, creator of heaven and earth. Father, you told Abraham to sacrifice his chosen son to prove his faith. When he looked over, he see the ram caught the thick like thorns in its head. One time for the Savior. But will we make it through this tribulation? When the sun and the moon don't give his light no more. All you gonna be around the world is truth. Peaceful Messiah, Messiah, Messiah. Peaceful Messiah, Messiah, Messiah. Peaceful Messiah, Messiah, Messiah. Peaceful Messiah, 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 Messiah. Hey, y'all have a blessed one. Shalom, shalom, shalom.